Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Streaming Club call. It is September 12th, and I am Peggy McCall, and I will be delivering the class for you today. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay, and I'm coming through loud and clear. Great to see a number of you on the call already. Welcome. I noticed that Maylin has said that she has finished her Power Life script, and congratulations. I love that you invested the time to really do that, to get clear. And I believe you're going to benefit from that when you use that effectively. And what I love about the Power Life script idea is that it's so easy to use, but incredibly powerful. And it really speaks to that whole idea and that methodology of creating a Power Life script, really speaks to what we're going to be talking about today. So for today, I am going to be covering off this book called Your Invisible Power, and I have prepared a presentation for you. But before we actually go over to that presentation, I do have the chat box open. I know a number of you are also on the chat. I'd just like to know that you can hear me okay. Can you just type in yes in the little chat box? Let me know that you can hear and that the sound's coming through perfectly and clearly and that we're all good to go. And then I'm going to switch over to my presentation so that I can teach this very, very important lesson, because this particular book, Your Invisible Power, is a book that I purchased actually back in 1980. And in 1980, I bought this book, and it's actually falling apart because I've been reading it for so long. And on this page, the very first page that's inside the book, it has the price that I paid for the book. $2.50, $2.50. And I believe you can get this book online for free. You can download it for free, Your Invisible Power. So I'm going to switch on over to my presentation now because I can see a number of yeses in the chat box so that it's obvious that you can hear me clearly. And then I'm going to come back a little bit later. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to address any questions that you may have as well. So Leonie says it's storming where she is, but she can hear, so that's great. Also, as you know, we always record the Streaming Club calls, and I recommend that you do watch this again and again and again, so that it's something that you'll be able to refer back to a little bit later, because this book here, Your Invisible Power, is one of the best books that I've ever read. And for those of you that know Sandy Gallagher, she loves this book and speaks about this book all the time. And whenever there is a Proctor Gallagher event and Sandy is there speaking, she quite often does a whole session, entire session, just on the visualization process. And this was a book that she also fell in love with, and she effectively does this. And I've used this technique for manifesting many things in my life, and I'll share an example of that during my presentation today. So we're going to switch over to my PowerPoint presentation now. So I'm just going to switch over to my screen here so that you can see it. Now you're looking at my PowerPoint presentation. And as I said, I'm going to be teaching from this fabulous book, Your Invisible Power. Now, Genevieve Behrend is and was the only student of Thomas Troward. And if you have been studying any of Bob Proctor's work, you have heard Bob Proctor talk about Thomas Troward. And he has been studying Thomas Troward for many, many years and finds him to be a very brilliant philosopher. I have also studied Thomas Troward, but here's the thing that I find, and I know a lot of people experience this as well. Thomas Troward's material is so incredibly brilliant that it's presented in a way that I don't believe the layman can really understand it. It's just a little more challenging. I believe you can, and you can certainly study it. And through study and through effective study, you can really understand it. But what I love about Genevieve Behrend's work is that she actually presents her understandings of Thomas Troward's work in this book called Your Invisible Power in a way that's so easy to understand. And so I'm going to present that to you as well. There's a story right in the beginning, right in the foreword that was written, that says the following. She says, Genevieve says, one morning after class, a man came to me and asked if I would speak the word of supply for him, as he was sadly in need of money. He offered me a $5 bill with the remark, "Dear madam, that is half of every dollar I have in the world. I am in debt. My wife and child have not the proper clothing. In fact, I must have money." I explained to him that money was the symbol of differentiated substance, that this substance filled all space, that it was present for him at this very moment, and it would manifest to him as the money he required. But, he questioned, it may come too late. I told him it could not come too late, as it was eternally present. He understood and got the uplift of my spoken word. I did not see that man again, but 6 months later, I had a letter from him stating he was in New Orleans. And here's what he said. Now, first of all, let's talk about the points that Genevieve Behrend said. She said money was present for him at that very moment. And what I wanted you to think about is money is present for you at this very moment as well. And money will manifest, as she said to him, money would manifest to him as the money he required. It would not come too late, as it is eternally present. Now that, I think, is something a lot of people don't understand. Why? Because it's the invisible, right? It's believing in the invisible. That's why Genevieve Behrend's book is called Your Invisible Power. But what happened was, in that letter that she received from this gentleman, he said to her, I am now well established here in my regular profession of photography. He was a photographer. And I own my own home, have an automobile of my own, and I am generally prospering. 3 days after I talked to you, a man whom I have not seen for years met me on the street. When I explained my situation to him, he loaned me the money to pay my bills and come down here. Now you remember, he gave Genevieve Behrend $5 and said it was half of everything that he had to his name at that point. And he also declared that he was in debt. And this letter came to Genevieve Behrend 6 months, only 6 months after. So he decided to heed her word and to follow her word. And he said in the letter, I want to thank you for lifting me out of the depths that day in New York. 3 days, 3 days after he talked to her, he ran into this guy who helped him. And then he sent her a check. He said, I'm enclosing a check to help you continue your wonderful work of teaching people how to mentally reach out and receive their never failing supply. I would not take anything from understanding as you have given it to me. God bless you. You see, there are so many messages in that little story alone. Never-ending supply, to be declaring to the universe what it is that you want and believing that it will be there, even though you may not have any idea how it's going to happen. And in this particular case, this gentleman ran into someone on the street 3 days later. Did he know he was going to run into this guy on the street? Did he know that this guy was going to loan him money to get his life back in order? No, but that's what transpired because he used his invisible power. You see, the source of joy, as Genevieve Behrend explains in Your Invisible Power, is a feeling that greater possessions, so this could be a home, it could be something you're looking to buy, no matter of what kind they may be, will of themselves bring contentment or happiness is a misunderstanding. No person, place, or thing can give you happiness. They may give you cause for happiness and a feeling of contentment, but the joy of living comes from within. There's a little section in this book, Your Invisible Power, where Genevieve suggests that as you're laying at night in bed, just say the word joy, joy, joy. And I've heard Bob say that on stage, and I've been studying Bob for almost 40 years now. And I remember when I first heard him say that, I didn't quite understand it at that time. But what he's saying and what Genevieve is saying, as she outlines in Your Invisible Power, is that there is energy in words. The words that we speak have energy within them. And so if we allow ourselves to feel the joy, we will attract more things into our life that cause the experience of joy, but we must first feel it from within. Results are sure to follow. This is what she says. She says, try to remember that the picture you think, feel, and see is reflected into the universal mind, and by the natural law of reciprocal action must be returned to you in either spiritual or physical form. You see, this idea of a picture that you think, feel, and see is something that I really want you to understand. not only is it enough to declare or write a goal or to even script what it is that you want, you must think the thoughts that are in alignment with it. Feel the feelings that are as if you already have that which you desire, and then create the images that are reflective of what it is that you want. And then the universal mind goes to work for you. And then it says the natural law of reciprocal action. You must move into action. Later on in this book, later in the chapter, somewhere near the end of the book, there's a page that says, I'm just going to see if I can find it here right now, that says faith without works is dead. It's in chapter How to Make Nature Respond to You, chapter 14. And what Genevieve says is, all that is necessary to realize that your mind is the center of divine operation and consequently contains that within itself which accepts suggestions and expect all life to respond to your call. So that means you must act upon, because you will get the idea. Because once you plant the idea in your mind and you declare it to the universe and you use your invisible power to visualize your heart's desire is already there, you will be inspired with the right action to take. And the right action may not always come the way that you think. The right action may come from something completely different. And it usually does, in fact. And I'll share a story with you in a little bit of how that happened precisely for me. So we're thus conditioned, whatever you think and feel yourself to be, the creative spirit of life is bound to faithfully reproduce in a corresponding reaction. It's like the universe is a faithful servant. It will respond. It does respond to what you're thinking, what you're consistently feeling, because that's what its role is. This is the great reason for picturing yourself and your affairs the way you wish them to be, as existing facts, though invisible to the physical eye, and living in your picture. Living in your picture. That's why things like a vision board can become very, very effective. That's why people use vision boards, because it allows them or invites them to feel the feelings of that which they desire, whether they're putting a vision on that board, a picture of themselves in physical shape. I remember one time with my vision board, I had taken a photo out of a magazine, and it was someone that was in phenomenal physical shape. And I cut out a photo of myself, but just took my head and put it on top of that body, the picture of the body, and put that on my vision board. And you can go into like a car dealership if you want. If a new vehicle is something you're looking for, sit in the car and get someone to take your picture in the car. That can become part of your vision board. So what it does is it allows you to think and feel yourself to be and to have that which you desire in a corresponding reaction, because the universe does respond. So you picture yourself that way, even though you have no idea how you're going to do it, but through the invisible, through the physical eye, you live in that picture. It's like you live in the home, or you live in the business, you live in the role of seeing yourself being wildly successful. I love going to the TIR, the Thinking in a Results training that is held a couple times a year in Toronto. There's one coming up actually next week. And I love hearing the stories of those TIR consultants that are in what's called the winner circle, or the inner circle of success. And they've achieved a certain level of success in order to be in this inner circle. And of course, there's additional benefits for being in the inner circle, including, of course, the earning power that's there of the accomplishment of being in the inner circle. But I love it when I hear people say that part of what they did to accomplish the result or the achievement of being in the inner circle is they imagine themselves sitting at the inner circle table, or they imagine themselves being on stage and receiving an award, and they saw that picture of themselves already in that, and as a result created that fact. So thereby really following through with what they're learning through the Thinking in a Results training. So the Genevieve Behrend says the order of visualization is, if you train yourself in the practice of deliberately picturing your desire and carefully examining the picture, you soon find that your thoughts and desires proceed in a more orderly procession than ever before. And this involves training. So how do you train yourself? Well, you train yourself in the practice. Now, later on in this session, I'm going to give you the suggestions that Genevieve gives to the readers of Your Invisible Power of how to put it into practice. Because ultimately, what you're looking to create is the feeling state of seeing the image so that you're in complete, total, utter alignment with the goods that you desire. There's no force involved. This is not a matter of pushing hard or forcing yourself to do this. It's allowing and letting yourself. So you train yourself in the practice of deliberately picturing your desire. And then you carefully examine the picture. And of course, carefully examining the picture, Sandy has a great story of that. Sandy Gallagher has a great story of that because at one point she decided she wanted to live right on the ocean in Malibu in California. And so she saw herself living on the ocean, and she ended up getting a condo, and it was right on the ocean. And it was close to the water, relatively close to the water, so it wasn't high up, it was right there. And what was happening is that even though the front of this condominium was all windows, every time that the ocean would hit the shore and it would splash up and it would go against the windows, and she said she had to clean the windows every day, and it wasn't clear for her to actually see the ocean. It was there, but it was like not great view, and the ceilings were short, and she just found that it wasn't really an enjoyable experience. So therefore, from that experience, she realized, I need to really carefully examine my picture of what it is that I desire. And it's the same thing I remember one time a woman who was sharing with me that she wanted to be in a relationship, and that was her goal, was to have this loving relationship and to be in this committed relationship with a significant other. And she ended up attracting someone into her life, and this someone was not the ideal person. He was already committed in another relationship, and even though she was crazy about him, and he was wanting to have a on the side kind of relationship, that's not what she wanted. She wanted a committed relationship where this person was committed to her and she was committed to them, and there was loyalty there, and there wasn't anyone else involved, and it didn't involve breaking up a family. And so part of carefully examining your picture is seeing all of your aspects, all of the aspects of your picture in your life. What does it really mean? I remember a number of years ago, a woman came to me, and she lived right here in Ottawa, in this nation's capital where I live. And she said to me that she wanted to be an actress, and not any actress. She wanted to be a very well-known actress who was an Academy Award-winning actress. So I said, and she was married with 2 little children. And I asked her, I said, well, where do your children and your husband fit into this? I mean, we live in Ottawa, Ontario. Are you and your family, are you all moving down to LA? Is that part of the plan? And what's this look like? And she said, well, I never really thought about that. And I said, well, do you have a desire to stay with your husband and stay married? And she was like, well, yes. And I said, okay, well, carefully examine the picture. It's not that it can't happen. It's not that it's not going to happen, but would you love for that to be a part of the picture? You got to carefully examine all aspects of what's important to you in your life, and that everyone and everything that's important to you is all a part of it. That it's harmonious, that it's smooth, that it's easy, that it's good for all, that it benefits all who are involved in that experience. And part of the visualization faculty could be seeing that as part of your outcome as well. So you train yourself in this practice of deliberately picturing your desire. That's why I often teach the Power Life Script process, and I've talked about it in other Streaming Club calls, which is where you describe. It's like a description of a picture, if you will, of a movie of your life and how you're living your life. And that's why I say include everything that is important to you. See all of it. You see, I'm a married woman, I'm a happily married woman, and I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother, and my family is my priority number 1. So in all parts of my vision of me living my life includes my family as a priority, includes me enjoying quality time with my family. It also includes me enjoying quality time with my husband. And even though I may travel for business, sometimes he comes with me, and we always have a great time wherever we go. So that becomes part of my picture. I've seen people who are in pursuit of their goals, and they're absolutely laser focused on the outcome of achieving their goals, that they forget about other things that are important to them as well, which should include health and perfect health and feeling great as well. And so an example of that is Genevieve shares that a lady once came to her for help in selling a piece of property. And she explained to her just how to make a mental picture of the sale, going through all the details mentally, exactly as she would do if the property were sold. And she came to her a week later and told how one day she was walking along the street when the thought suddenly occurred to her to go and see a certain real estate dealer to whom she had not yet been. She hesitated for a moment when she first got the idea, as it seemed to her that that man could not sell her property. However, upon the strength of what she had learned through Genevieve Behrend, she followed the lead and went to the real estate man who sold her property in only 3 days after she first approached him. You see, what happens is when you're using this faculty of visualization, you will get inspired with ideas. And the ideas may come from an unusual experience, an unusual source. It may come from listening to a song and hearing the lyrics. It may come from glancing over at a magazine rack and seeing a headline of a magazine. It could come from an email that lands in your inbox that's an ad for something else that has nothing to do with what you're looking at, but suddenly an idea pops into your mind and you act on it. You act on it. That's a big part of what our responsibility is, to act on it and just follow through and just go with it and trust that it's going to work. Another example is there's a businessman that once told her that since practicing visualization and forming the habit of devoting a few minutes each day to thinking about his work as he desired it to be in a large, broad way, his orders more than doubled in 6 months. His method was to go into a room every morning before breakfast and take mental inventory of his business as he had left it the evening before, and then enlarge upon it. He said he expanded and expanded in this way until his affairs were in a remarkably successful condition. Now that story it's on page 20 in the book that I have, but it's in chapter 2. And one of the things I love about Genevieve's book is that she has a lot of these little stories in there. And what I find to be absolutely fascinating is many of the stories that she shares in this book are of people that have manifested fast, almost like that. I mean, here's an example of a gentleman who doubled his business in 6 months. In 6 months. We heard the story earlier about the man who had $5. That's all he had, half of the money that he had in the world. $5. He gave it to Genevieve, and within 6 months, he was living in his own home. He had his own car. His business was running. He was very successful, and he had achieved amazing things. And the other example, the woman who had a property to sell, and within 1 week, she sold it, and from an unexpected way. And so that was by following the suggestion of Genevieve Behrend. Now, what I want to say is that the suggestions, and I'm going to give them to you right here in this hour that we're here together in the Streaming Club call, are not complicated. And what I love about this whole idea of visualizing is it's a lot of fun. And it should be fun, and it certainly should be easy. As I said, force is not a part of it. So here are the things that Genevieve suggests. The things to remember for you to visualize your heart's desire is to know exactly what is it. So be sure to know exactly what conditions you wish to produce. So what does she mean by conditions? What is your life like, right? What is your finance? What are your finances like? What's your business like? What are your revenues like? What's your income like? What's your bank account look like? What does your net worth look like? What is your health like? What does your physical body look like? What about your relationships? What about the things that you have, that you're enjoying, that you're doing, that you're loving, that you're experiencing? Be sure to know exactly what you'd love to experience, and then let your thoughts dwell upon a mental picture. I remember being at the 1% Club last November in Kona, Hawaii, and Bob Proctor was teaching the people that were at the 1% Club, and he said, when you look at your goal card, do you see a picture? Do you see a picture? It's important to see a picture when you think about what it is that you want. Visualization brings your objective mind into a state of equilibrium, which enables you to consciously direct the flow of spirit to a definitely recognized purpose. You see, we have a role in manifestation, and the universe or spirit has a role in manifestation. We're like partners. We are partners. We're partners for greater good. We're partners for manifesting. We're partners for creating our heart's desire. And she goes on to say, this is a wonderful potential power. Your picture assists you to keep your mind fixed and determines the direction the creative power will take. By doing this, you make your outcome a certainty. Now, that line should be underlined and should be bold. You make your outcome a certainty. You make your outcome a certainty. This is all about ease. Allow it to be only easy. Holding cheerful thoughts shuts out any other destructive thoughts. That's why I said earlier to say the word joy, 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 joy. I was talking to a client of mine this morning, and she was talking about how she finds herself getting into this swirling wind of negativity. And I said to her, I said, what I suggest is that the moment you notice that the negative, destructive thoughts are there, stop yourself. And then do something that's going to switch you over and have you thinking about what you want. A great example of that is to ask a very simple question. It is a 4-word question. What would you love? What would you love? So there's another idea that Genevieve is giving. Say the word joy, 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 joy. So you hold cheerful thoughts. So when you start to get frustrated and when things aren't happening the way you want them to be, you just stop. Okay, what is it that I love? What is it that I would love to experience? The other day I was working on this presentation actually, and I was looking for an image to put in one of my slides. And I ended up over at Google, and I ended up seeing a story about a gentleman who had doubled his income within a year. And actually, no, he didn't double it. He took his business to 10 million. And I'm not sure what it was before that, but he had taken his business significantly from what it was before over to $10 million. And I watched a little video of this gentleman where he shared what had happened to him and why he did it. And this gentleman was a chocolatier, and he owned a business, and they were making chocolates, like really fancy chocolates. And he had a number of employees, and he had a facility, and he made a decision that he was going to take his business to another level, like really increase his business. So the desire, the thought was there. And so, of course, when we have the desire, the power is within us to manifest it. But he didn't know how, and of course, you don't have to know how. So what he did was he decided to just pursue as if he had all the means and all the ability to create this business that was going to generate $10 million. And he ended up looking for a larger facility. And he decided that he was going to build this facility because he couldn't find what he was looking for. And he went through a number of challenges in order to make this happen. And he really didn't know what he was doing. And he didn't hire the appropriate people to give him the right guidance because he didn't want to spend the money. He was concerned about spending the money. And there were periods of time when he was going through the process of growth that he thought he was going to lose it all. And he was risking everything. And there was a point where he almost did lose everything. And when they were bringing in the coolers, which were an absolute necessity for the chocolate, they couldn't even get them through the door. And he never even thought, oh my goodness, I need to make the door wide enough for my coolers to get through. And so he had to find another way. He didn't give up. So what he did was he ended up having to hire a crane and a crane operator in order to lift the coolers and bring them in through windows. And that's how he got them in there. But he didn't allow these challenges, which could have flattened most people, could have definitely caused people to put the brakes on and go, what am I doing? But he decided to just allow it to be what it was and used ease and focusing on cheerful thoughts and shut out any other negative thought or destructive thought. And he ultimately ended up, getting the facility and getting it all set up and hiring the people and took his business to a $10 million level, offering his chocolate. So a wonderful success story. And of course, number 7 of things that Genevieve recommends that we remember is that this is the work of the creative power. It will build its own form of expression quite naturally. Confidently hold the image You do not have to know how, right? And I think this is the part that trips up most people from pursuing that which they love, is that they get to the point where they start to think, oh, I'd really love to have that, do that, be that, experience that. And then on the next breath of thought, they start to think, well, how in the world am I going to do that? Or they start to think about how they can't or why they can't, and they shut it all down. But if you see the image, if you create the image, you build that image. As I said a moment ago, you're in a partnership with the universe. You have your responsibility. The universe is there. It's working. The laws always work. They never shut down 24/7. It's going to work with you. But you've got to do your part. What's your part? Well, your part is to decide what you want, to create the image, to feel as if you already have it, and to allow it to happen. And when you get inspired with action ideas, you take action. It's really quite simple. So when do you visualize? When's the best time to visualize? Well, the best times to visualize are first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And I believe the reason for that is because your mind is far more open and receptive at those times. Now, what is suggested is that you wake up at 5 in the morning and you sit in a chair where your back is up, you're sitting upright, and you go into a visualization process. You visualize for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, first thing in the morning. And you can put a timer on if you wish. You can have timers on your phone, on your cell phone, and just visualize. Just create the image. Now, if you like, you could use something that can guide you to see the images. You could actually listen to your Power Life script, or you could create some kind of an audio and have that be something that can guide you. Or if you're someone who is already in a practice of meditation and you're able to really focus your time and focus your energy, you may want to do that. You see, I'm somebody that's very high energy. And I think they call that attention deficit disorder. And I'm sure that if they were diagnosing that ADD back when I was in high school or school, I would have been diagnosed with ADD. And I don't look at it as a bad thing. I think it's a wonderful thing, because a lot of creative people, like highly creative, successful people, are ADD or claim to be ADD. Now, I do have the ability to focus, but I've trained myself to do it. As Genevieve Behrend said earlier, you got to practice, you got to mentally practice, you got to train yourself in this practice. And so this is what's part of training yourself in the practice, is to do that in the morning. And if it's more helpful to you, create some kind of a guided audio that has you seeing the images. And maybe that is your Power Life script that you're listening to. And you just close your eyes and you listen to it and you see it as you're listening to it. You see the images. And the way that you script your Power Life script should be done in a way that you can see the images. Like I love when I pull in my driveway and I see my home. It still takes my breath away. And I walk in the front door and I love the big mahogany doors. And I open the front door and I just feel this elation, this feeling of gratitude as I look up at the high ceilings and the big bright windows. Right? You create the images so that you can see it. The better you can see it. You know, I see my partner and I walking down the beach, holding hands and feeling the warmth of the sun on our skin as we enjoy living this tropical paradise. Right? So you use words to create the pictures in your mind. And then the last thing you do at night before you go to bed is to visualize as well. And that can be done just through, like, one of the things that I do is right beside my bed, I have a sign. And the sign says, now that your dream is fulfilled, Peggy, how do you feel? Now that your dream is fulfilled, Peggy, how do you feel? And that always puts a smile on my face. I mean, you just can't help but have a smile on your face thinking about your dream is fulfilled. Now, before I actually had the sign made, I took a little sheet of paper, a little notepad, and I simply wrote it on a notepad and put it beside my bed. And I was in a hotel when I first got that idea. I was at the Ritz-Carlton in Marina Del Rey in California in 2012. And I'd heard about this idea through Neville Goddard, through studying Neville Goddard. That's one of the things that he had suggested. And Wayne Dyer was a great student of Neville Goddard as well. And Wayne Dyer became a client of mine. And Wayne Dyer talks about that in his book called Wishes Fulfilled. Just write that on an index card, put it beside your bed, or a little sheet of paper, a little notepad, put it on your phone. It comes up regularly as a reminder. You've got that ability on phones to have these little reminder messages come up all day long. I do that with my affirmations. And so that you don't only just read the question, but you close your eyes and you see it. you see it and you do that as a practice before you go to bed. And that becomes your practice every single day. Now, I want to share with you an example of a gentleman who used visualization in sports. And this is a story, and you may have heard me share this story before, but it's absolutely worthy of repeating. Because Mark Tewksbury was a swimmer, and he competed as a swimming the backstroke. But he was also on the Canadian relay team, and he's originally from Canada, Calgary, Alberta. And Mark Tewksbury, as a young man, had a desire to be an Olympian. Not just any Olympian, his goal was to win a gold medal. And when he went to the Olympics in 1998, he actually won a silver medal in the men's swim relay race. So he had won a medal, and when he returned from the Olympics, several of his friends and family members said to him, like, congratulations, you must be, thrilled that you've achieved your goal. And he said, that wasn't my goal to win a silver gold or silver medal. My goal was to win a gold medal. And so I'm going back to the Olympics in 4 years and I'm going to win the gold. And of course, that meant that Mark Tewksbury was going to be 4 years older. And of course, age does play a role in the Olympics because you're usually competing with people around your same age. So a lot of people's belief was that it couldn't be done. There's no way. You're going to be 4 years older. You're going to be competing with guys that are a lot younger than you and a lot better shape. But he decided not to believe that. So he visualized himself winning the gold medal, and he did it over and over again. And so when it was time for the Olympics, he actually had headed over early to where the swim meet was going to be taking place. And he was able to convince the janitor to let him in to where the pool was. And he said that he went into where the pool was and he stood at the pool where the lanes were, and he just imagined. He used visualization. So you got to imagine. So this is the place where all the Olympic swimmers are competing, and there's a pool there, but actually there wasn't even any water in it at that moment that he was there. But he stood there. Nobody was there. No one in the stands. No one in the pool area except him. He didn't know which lane he would be in, but he just chose a lane just for the sake of doing this visualization exercise. And what he did was he walked out to position himself in the lane, imagining. And of course, he didn't even have his bathing suit on at that point. He just stood at the lane, standing with his back to the pool, as if, when the gun goes off, he's going to dive in the pool. And in his mind, he went through a visualization practice of seeing himself stroke after stroke after stroke, touching the other wall, turning around, coming back, and then coming out of the pool and looking up and seeing his name as the gold medal winner, and then looking over in the stands and seeing all the Canadians with their Canadian flags cheering and waving. And he had that experience. He had that experience multiple times before the actual event. And then, of course, the day of the meet, the day of the race, he arrives at the pool and he goes into what they call the ready room, and he could see the other swimmers that were in there, and some of them had towels over their head and they were chanting, and they're people from all over the world. There was a Russian there who was apparently pegged as the person who was most likely to win, and he had the towel over his head and he's speaking in Russian. And there was another guy there from another country, maybe Germany, and he had the towel on his head and he was speaking in German, and just totally, utterly focused. And for a moment, he thought he was going to lose it. Like, oh my God, I'm not ready. What am I doing here? And these guys are, positioned to be the winners, and I'm not. So he got a hold of himself and he thought, no. And he sat down and he just put the towel over his head, and he focused and he focused, and he just saw the outcome that he desired. He saw it, and he became very calm. Very calm. It's like, as Genevieve says, it's about ease. It's not about force. He became calm and very focused. And then they called them to come out to where they were going to line up. And they walked out in single file out to where the pool was. And of course, there's water in it now. And he stood there. And then they were like, off, boom, off goes the gun. And they jump in the pool. And he's pushing. He's with every stroke, he's giving it harder. And he just happens to glance, and he notices that there's an ankle at his eye view. Now that's not a good thing when you're doing the backstroke, right? The ankle means somebody else is in front of you. Now he didn't know who it was. He didn't know whether it was only one guy or it was several guys. And so he just said to himself these words. He said, "Go now. Go now." And with every time he said the words, "Go now," he pushed harder. And then he'd say, "Go now," and pushed harder, and then pushed harder, and gave it everything he had. And then at one point he glanced over and he saw an elbow, better than an ankle. So he saw an elbow. So he thought, okay, good, we're probably neck and neck. Again, he doesn't know where any of the other swimmers are. So he gets to the end, he turns around, he comes back, and every stroke he's going, "Go now, go now, go now," and giving it everything he's got. And then he touches the wall, and they have sensors in the wall of the pool. That's how they know who actually won. It's the sensors that tell them. And he came out of the pool and he looked up at the sign, and it said gold medal winner Mark Tewksbury. He was number one. And that picture that you're looking at right now is Mark's face when he won the gold medal. But he did it, and he used the power of visualization to do it. Now, Mark Tewksbury manifested a gold medal, but that made a big difference in his life. It's like Bob says, the goal is never for what you get, it's for who you become in the process. Like Mark Tewksbury going through that experience of pushing himself even harder, like just giving it everything he's got, was a growth experience for him, something that he will absolutely remember forever. And I only know that story because I saw Mark come to Ottawa one time, and he spoke and he shared that story at the event where he was speaking. But an incredible, inspiring example of using visualization. I have my own story of this as well. I have multiple stories. We could be on this call all day long. I share with you visualization stories of things that I've manifested, but one of them goes back many, many years ago. My son he's almost 26 years of age now, and he was 2. And his father, who was my husband at the time, and I were getting divorced. And we tried to sell the matrimonial home so we could go our separate ways. And of course, we'd worked out an arrangement for our son, Michel, and investing part of his time with his dad and his time with his mom. And so we had decided we were getting divorced, and I was out looking for a house, and we could not sell our home. We had it on the market, but it wasn't selling, and it was in a declining market at that time. And we lived out in the country, so the home was even less attractive at that time. So we had the house in the market, we're trying to sell it, not buying, or not selling. But I knew that if I and when I focus on my goal, I had been a student of Bob Proctor at that point for many, many years, that I didn't have to know how it was going to happen, but I decided it was going to happen. I decided I was going to purchase a home. So I would go out and I would look at homes. That's action, right? I had faith and I would take action. I would go and I'd go to new home showrooms and I'd look at the new homes. I would go to open houses whenever there'd be an open house on the weekend, and I would just stare at my goal card. I am so happy and so grateful now that I own my beautiful home, and I described it so I could see it. So I could see my son and I living in my beautiful home. And even though Charles, which my first husband, would say, "Why do you bother? Why do you bother?" And he was only saying that because we hadn't sold the house. And of course, I didn't have the funds or the means to go and buy another house. But we don't have to know how. We just have to decide, what is it that you would love? What would you love? What would you love? And I was loving the idea of owning a home. And what happened was, in our city, we have this thing called the CHEO, Dream of a Lifetime Lottery. The Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario runs this once a year, and you can buy a ticket for $100 and you win a house. And so I heard about this. I thought, wow, that sounds fascinating. So I ended up going out to check out the house, and it was exactly what I described. It was the house that I had described. So I bought a ticket. And not only did I buy a ticket, but I changed my goal card. And on my goal card, I put the address. And then I would go and I'd visit that house every single day. Not every single day, that's not true. I went quite often. I would go there and I'd visualize, but every single day I would visualize being in the house. I would visualize seeing my son in the house and us living in that home. So I visualize. And then what happened was, on December 7th, the draw for the CHEO Dream of a Lifetime Lottery came up, and Dr. John Goodman won the home. I didn't win the house, but I was totally in a state of visualization. I mean, I really believed we were going to be living in that house. So when Dr. John Goodman won it, I was kind of surprised. Like, wait a minute, that's my house. And so I was like, okay, well, we got to let the universe, because the universe is our partner, right? We're going to let the universe reveal the way that I'm going to own a home. So it's like, all right, I'm still going to see myself owning a home. And on my goal card, I just removed the address and I still focused. I'm so happy and grateful. I'm owning my home, living in my home. My son and I are loving it and enjoying it, and we're appreciating it. And I just saw it in my mind's eye. 3 months later, I just got an idea. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and the idea was go buy that home, go past that home. So I drove by the home, and there was a for sale sign on the lawn. It's like, oh, fascinating. For sale sign. Okay, so I called the real estate agent. I want to see the home. I still didn't have money. I still hadn't sold my previous home. And the real estate agent met me at the house. Now I'm trying to make a longer story a little short so I can give you the points here. But what happened was I ended up buying that home. I had no idea how I would pay for it. No idea whatsoever. But what happened was I ended up buying the home. I moved into the home, but I closed the deal 6 months later. And all of the idea and all of the means for having that all transpire absolutely came from the universe. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no idea how it was going to happen, but I acted in faith. And I lived in that home for many, many years. I ended up selling it for almost twice what I paid for it, but I manifested a dream home by using the power of visualization, by trusting, by partnering up with the universe and allowing it to happen. And it happened. Now, there were many periods of time during that experience where I was feeling freaked out. And even when I made the purchase, the offer to purchase, I remember having that choking feeling of, what have I done? But I just switch over to, what would you love, Peggy? What would you love, Peggy? What would you love, Peggy? And seeing and believing and knowing that this was my home. And that's all I focused on. All I focused on. I would get out of destructive, negative thoughts and put myself over into joyful, harmonious, wonderful, appreciative thoughts of having that which I desired and manifested a dream home. And of course, that experience strengthened me. It caused me to realize, wow, I can do anything. I learned and applied techniques that I had understood before, but I understood them at a cellular level now. And that's what happens. You've got to practically apply it in order to really and truly experience the magnificence and the magic of all of it. So you start with, and you end with, and you involve with, what would you love? What is it that you would love to experience? You got to really connect with that. What is it that you would love? And you create the vivid picture of that. What's it going to feel like when I have that? And then what are you seeing? What does it look like? What images are coming up for you when you think about that? So these are the things that you do. You got to figure out, what is it that I want? What is it I want? Now, some people say, I don't even know what I want. I don't know what I'd love. Well, you probably know what you don't want, right? I can't tell you how many times I get on the phone with somebody and they say, I don't know what I want. And within minutes, bam, they're just like, it's like a brook of flow of water just coming out of them going, oh my God, I would really, and off they go, just starting to really dream and get excited because we get in our own way, right? We get in our own way. The paradigms are going to block you, but get rid of them. Just play with this idea. Decide that you're going to dedicate a minute every hour. This is what Genevieve suggests in Your Invisible Power. Now, I can imagine that a lot of people aren't disciplined enough to do this, but I'll tell you, if you do, it'll change everything. Spend 1 minute every hour visualizing. Visualize your heart's desire, whether it's your life, whether it's something specific in your life, whether it's a particular goal, but spend a minute every hour visualizing. And then for 2 periods of 15 minutes each day, devote to the study or the steady recognition of the desired outcome. That's what I was talking about earlier. First thing in the morning and the last thing at night. And then she suggests have a written record of the vividness with which you experience your mental image. So that's the Power Life Script process that I was talking about earlier. And by the way, if you go to my YouTube channel, I did 8 videos in a little series on the Power Life Script process. I've talked about it before. I know some of you have gone there, some of you have used it, but if you haven't, just go to YouTube, look for Peggy McCall and the Power Life Script, and you'll find 8 little videos where I explain the entire process. And then, of course, spend 5 minutes every day between 12 and noon, or 12 noon and 1 p.m. on a new source or sources of wealth. Now that's something else that she suggests. Now I actually have never done that. Now as I was preparing for you for today, I was thinking, hey, I've never done that. What a cool idea. Now, quite often I'm traveling or you're speaking or running a seminar or on stage at that point. But I thought, what a fascinating idea to spend 5 minutes each day on new sources of wealth. What a great idea. What a fascinating idea. But none of this is going to do anything for you unless you apply it, unless you really implement it into your life. And you can use different things that can help you with visualization. As I've mentioned, a number of them right here, right now. A goal card. I used a goal card for my dream home. I had my goal card with me. I carried it with me wherever I go. I still have a goal card. I've been carrying a goal card since 1980, since Bob first shared with me that whole process of having a goal card. But the goal card should invoke images in your mind. You should be able to see a picture when you look at your goal card. So that's important. So goal card is one of those tools. Another tool is a vision board, where you actually put images on a vision board. And they could be images of you with a healthy body, with a slim body, you with a partner, or pictures of love. Could be a vehicle, could be a home, it could be finances, it could be the impact you're making on the world, it could be a number of things. But the vision board is really a reflection of you living your ideal life. I have my vision board right here beside me. And my vision board is one that I can just pick up and take with me and put it beside my bed at night if I choose to, or I can look at it in the morning when I wake up. As a matter of fact, I do that, but I have it in my office because I'm in my office quite often during the day. So my vision board comes with me. Another exercise to really help with visualization is you could create a manifestation movie where you take images and you put them into a PowerPoint presentation, and then you save it as a movie file and you watch that movie. And that's a fun thing to do. And I've mentioned that before. I even showed it on one of the classes that we had here together. I showed my manifestation movie. Now, my manifestation movie took me weeks to create. And I know earlier, before we started this call, there was one lady who shared that she's been working on her Power Life script and she's been working on it for several hours. This is your life we're talking about here. It's absolutely beneficial and worthwhile to invest the time to do these things, because you get one chance, right? Like I think about that quite often. I think about it as time. Time is something that just seems to fly by. It goes so quickly. And I think about, how just in the last 20 years, how boom, my son, as I said, is almost 26. It's like, wow, I remember changing his diaper yesterday. It seems like it was yesterday, and how fast it all goes. But if you're looking to manifest anything in your life and you're looking to create a phenomenal life, a dream life, this is absolutely the way to do it. Use your visualization faculty. What I love about it is that you get in partnership. You're in partnership with the universal mind. You're in partnership with God, if you will. You're in partnership with the laws of the universe, because they're going to do the heavy lifting. It's easy to do. It's easy when we get out of our way. But the challenge comes from paradigms. We've got to get out of our own way. We've got to be willing to do the work. We've got to discipline ourselves so that we're doing this every single day. Because if we're not, well, we've got to be very, very cautious, because we could be manifesting things that we don't want to experience in our lives. So that's my message for today. That's what I want to leave you with. That's what I really, really want you to understand. Now, my recommendations is to do as Genevieve recommends, to really put this into practice. As she said earlier, it's getting into the practice of visualizing your heart's desire. And if you don't have a copy of Your Invisible Power, you want to get a copy of this book. And don't just read it, study it. Study it. There may be a page or a paragraph in this book that you decide that you're going to just study and read. Like I have pages dog marked and highlighted and things written in the columns and things like that, because you can open up this book and you can just study from a particular page and you'll get something out of it until you get, like I was emailing with my business partner. I have a gentleman who works with me. He lives in Austria and he joined my organization last year. And I was sending him a note, because as I was studying and preparing for the streaming club call and working with this, it's like there's almost like something that happened. It was like an occurrence that happened for me. It's like I understand this at another level, even though I've been studying it for so long. It's like if you go to see, or when you go to see Bob Proctor present, you see him on stage and you hear him, and it's like, wow, you've heard him say something before, but there's something that happens within you that you just receive it at a whole new level. It's because you're dedicated and disciplined to the study. Because when you are, you're expanding your consciousness, you're expanding your awareness. And when you're implementing it, that's where it gets into your DNA, into your cellular level, that it's like you're programmed. You're programmed. And that's one of the great benefits of our paradigms, is that we can program them to serve us, to help us serve the world, to do greater good in this world. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I just want to see if you've had any experiences where you've used visualization to manifest something and you want to share that right here, right now, or if you happen to have a question or whatever. I'm just going to check out the comments that are here as well. What would you love is a question that has brought clarity to me and my husband this week. We have been going back and forth about a vehicle we want to purchase. My husband wanted to downgrade, and I agreed. That then I asked myself the question, visualize what I wanted, and it was all much clearer. Thank you, Maylin. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I'm just going to the top here. I want to see if there's any other comments. Shelley says, I used this process years ago to get a job that there were no openings for. Me too. I use the same thing. And I bought the clothes that I would need for the position. I kept visualizing myself doing the job, talking to the clients who would have, and living the part. I kept doing this every day for months. And even though I couldn't see how it would happen, I finally got the job. It does work. I did the same thing, Shelley. Actually, I was working for Toshiba, and I was in Toronto. This is back in the 80s. And Toshiba had just opened up a brand new department. And it was when microcomputers had just really started and they were on the scene. And I love technology. And I decided I wanted to work in that division. So even though I was working for Toshiba in another division, I actually took a business card of one of the people that was in this technology division, and I put my name on it. And that guy got fired. Now, I didn't mean to have this guy fired. He got fired and I got his job. It was kind of freaky how it all happened. I wasn't thinking of his job. I wasn't thinking of that specific job. I just wanted to get in the division. But I took his business card and I put my name on it, ended up with his job. It's like, woo! It's like one of those doo-doo-doo-doo moments, like, wow. It's amazing how it happens. Joni says, ADD is a bogus diagnostic. Oh, all right. Great. All right, what would you love? Okay, great. I saw that one already. Thank you. I love reading that story you shared about your house and your destiny switch. Thanks, Marianne. It's a great book for anyone looking to add to their library. Absolutely agree, Marianne. It is a great book. And frankly, that entire process of manifesting my dream home is what inspired the book, Your Destiny Switch. I've been visualizing about a year. I've been working miracles in my life. I truly believe that my thoughts and feelings become things. Powerful. Thank you, Mark. Absolutely true. That was awesome, Peggy. It helped me create my Power Life script. I have it on my phone and I play it through my Bluetooth when I'm in my car. Diane says, wow, so much fun to visualize what we want. Thumbs up to this. Thanks for your absolutely fantastic teaching and enthusiasm. Thanks, Diane. I love teaching these streaming club calls. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you. Diane says, I raised my hand at the training years ago to say I was interested in teaching the technique in the future. Now is the future, and I'm assisting with teaching the technique. I love that. Samantha says, I did use visualization. I manifested a vehicle, house, and a job. Still to manifest a few other things, but I use visualization, affirmations, and audio life script. Thank you, Peggy. I love it. Shelley says, cool, Peggy. I did something similar to a business card too. All right, everyone. Well, it has been again my pleasure to serve you. This hour has just flown by, absolutely flown by. I appreciate all of you. Now, what I suggest is go out and do it. And if you've been doing it, great. You may want to just do a little bit more. I love what Genevieve suggests, a minute every hour. I wonder how many are doing that. So do the practice in the morning, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, a minute every hour. And between 12 and 1, as she says, start to think about and contemplate new ways of attracting more money and producing revenue in your life. Do that as well. All right, everyone. I'll see you again on another streaming club call, or maybe I'll see you at the Paradigm Shift events coming up. If you haven't purchase your ticket for the Paradigm Shift event, I suggest you do so, because that event will absolutely sell out. VIP is already sold out. VIP tickets are gone. There's still some general admission tickets, but I'm not sure for how long. If you're thinking of coming, absolutely highly recommend you go. I'll see you there. Would love to meet you. Want to give you a hug, shake your hand, whatever you like. And if you can't get over to LA to be at the Paradigm Shift, then absolutely sign up and register for the streaming version of the Paradigm Shift. Although I think in the streaming club you actually get that. Yes, you do. I believe you do. But come in person. Get your ticket and come in person. I'd love to see you there. All right, everyone. You're very welcome. Great to see you again. I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.